In this lesson, we'll create mail buttons to generate control objects. After we have created a few control objects, we're not going to want to continue that same process from scratch over and over again. Instead, we'll want to work a little bit more efficiently. So we're going to learn that process. We'll utilize Maya's mail buttons to do so. So let's go ahead and learn the process. What we'll first do is make a base object. And we'll start by working on a control curve that has a cube shape. So we'll just create a cube and also have interactive creation turned off. So we'll make the cube. And with that made, we'll just go ahead and just scale this up to a good size. Maybe to about 50 in scale. And then we can move it away from our character if we like. You could also hide the character, but I'm going to show you a way we can center the pivot of this object if we like, once the curve is made using the mail button. Alright, so now that this is here, our next task is going to be to draw out along the edges our control object. So for this, we'll go to Create, and we'll go down to our CV Curve tool. And resetting our settings, we just want to make sure that linear is going to be selected. Okay, so our curve degree is set to linear. We can hit Control A twice to get back to our channel box view. And we're ready to start drawing out our curve. Now, let's go to our script editor. We'll right click and let's go ahead and clear our history. What we want to do here is basically, once we're done drawing out our curve, use this to generate our control object width. So what Maya's going to do once we're finished is record all that we've done, and we can use that to make our curve. So it's as simple as that. So what we'll go ahead and do, if we like, is switch over to our perspective and graph editor view, and then just switch our panel here, going to panels and selecting script editor. It's getting cut off in the video, but it should be the last selection. Alrighty, so now we're ready to begin drawing out our curve. So what we want to do is hold down the V key and just snap along the box's vertices and vertices. So we'll just hold V. It doesn't matter if your curves overlap at all, okay, because that's not going to be necessary. We're just using this to make our control object width. Okay, so we'll draw the next one. And also be mindful that you don't miss any edges unless it's intentional. Okay. Oh. Now also make sure that you also would want to make sure that it doesn't get snapped to the character's boot itself. So just be mindful of that. You could always hit undo. That's going to be just fine. Alright, looks like we just have a few more to do here before we're all finished up. And that looks like that's about it. So we could hit enter, select our cube, and delete it, the cube geometry itself, and we're left with this curve. Alright, excellent. So we have this control curve. What we're also left with, if we look inside our script editor, is the line of code that was generated to make this object. Great, so that's what we're going to be using. So from here, let's go ahead and take the line. Okay, it should be called as such, as we see here. We'll double click it so we can grab the whole thing, press Control C to copy, and now let's go ahead and paste it within the script editor. Great. And what we also want to do is make sure we go one line underneath. If it doesn't send you there, you can always select the top line, hit the N key on your keyboard, and just hit enter to go to that next line. But either way, what we're going to do here is make sure that our pivot is going to be centered when we create this object. So that's going to be as simple as typing in center pivot with a capital C and also capital P for pivot and semicolon. So now that this is done, we want to select both lines and simply middle mouse button click and drag at the top of our shelf. So what does this do for us? Well, watch. If we were to select this curve, delete it, notice this. If we go back to this button, notice we have our curve generated automatically and the pivot has been centered. Great, so notice how much time this is going to save us. Excellent. Well, now with this done, we do want to label this button so we know exactly what this is. So let's do that. We can go back to our shelf menu, Okay, this time we want to go to our shelf editor. From there, we should already be in our shelf, okay, under shelf content, but if not, you can go ahead and go to the first tab, shelves, and make sure it's selected. And then go to shelf content from there. Now we want to find our curve, there it is, and just give it an icon name. We'll call this our BCC, box control curve. Okay, and everything else is fine. So we'll go ahead and just save our shelf out. There we are. Alright, so with that done, we can now delete this and work on our next object. We kind of get the idea of what we're doing here. So the next one we create is going to be for an octahedron or a diamond shape, which I also like to use as well. So for this, we can go back to create polygon primitives. We can go to platonic solids. Once that's created, again, we can scale this up, move it over to the side, and then we'll switch our solid type from dodecahedron to octahedron, or dodecahedron, excuse me, to octahedron. Okay, so now that this is done, we're ready to again create another curve from this shape. Okay, and you could use whatever shapes you like, but these are the shapes that I like to work with. So now that we go back to our create curve tool, we'll go to our script editor and clear everything. We'll just go to clear all to clean this up and start drawing out our curve. So we'll hold V and snap. Okay, trying to make sure not to miss any of our edges, and if you do, you can always go ahead and add points to your curve, so don't think that you'll need to start over from scratch. Okay, so just about finished with this. Looks like we just have one more edge to get and hit enter. Now that we have this, we can go to our script editor. There's the line. Let's go ahead and select it all and drag it to our script editor text area. From there, we'll go one line underneath and just make sure that we type in center pivot. Alright, great. So now that this is done, we're ready to just hit Control A, or you could select the lines with your mouse, but either way, you'll now middle mouse button click and want to add this to your shelf. Go to the shelf editor, and from there, go to the next line down. Okay, they're following in order, and we'll call this our DCC, Diamond Control Curve. Okay, save the shelf, and there we are. So, if we were to select this object now, delete both objects, and go to DCC, there it is. So that's the process for creating them. What we're going to do now is just create a few more before we close off this lesson. The next one we'll make is for what I like to use for the hip object. So for this, we can go to the character's front view. Let's go to the front view here, and we'll make sure that we could get a nice view in here. We'll go back to our create curve button, and then let's go ahead and zoom into our grid. Okay, so we'll just really zoom in so that we can snap to grid. Okay, this is going to be quite small, but that's fine. We'll scale it up. Alright, so now, again, going to our script editor, making sure everything is cleared out. What we'll go ahead and do is just start by just snapping out our curve just to form an H shape. Okay, H for hip, and then we could hit enter. From there, what we want to do is go ahead and scale this up. So let's go back and view it. There it is. We'll center its pivot and scale it up. Okay. And then we can freeze its transforms. Alright, so from there, we can use this as our base shape for our hip object. We can go to the script editor, okay, and we can get all of this information here that we see. So we'll just highlight it all and simply middle mouse button click and drag it to our shelf and save it as a mail script. Alright, now we simply go to our shelf editor and change this name. Okay, going again to the last line and calling this HCC for hip control curve, or whichever you'd like to use it for. Close this out. So if we were to delete this object and go back to hip control curve, there it is. Alright, great. So that's the process again for quickly generating control objects. Excellent. Now, lastly, before we finish this off, let's go ahead and add another, and it's just going to be a circle curve, so there's going to be no need to actually draw this out. Okay, we'll just hold Control Shift. We'll go to Create, we'll go to NURBS Primitives, and we'll add a circle. So we could just have that there. Well, with these things now done, we have the objects that we'll be using for a majority of the time making our control objects. So that does finish this lesson, and in the next lesson we're ready to start building our rig.